Man, what's going on, everyone? Dude, I hope you guys are doing good or okay or más o menos or extraordinary. We have a special video coming for you right now, and this is a phone that I have a love-hate relationship with, and I'll talk more about it in a minute, but I extensively talked about this phone last year in 2018. Not extensively, but more than I should have, mostly because Samsung actually quit supporting the Samsung Galaxy S6. It was supposed to get Android Oreo, but it never did, at least an official version of Android Oreo, and I made a video saying RIP the Galaxy S6. I filmed a scene in that video, but then I thought it was going to get demonetized, so I took that scene out. And a lot of people hit me up about it, but that's a whole different story. But with the Samsung Galaxy S6, we're going to go ahead and take a look at it, seeing if it's still worth it in 2019, whether you should buy it, what other options you have around this price tag, all that good stuff. And so just kind of looking around the body, this is where Samsung really went from the whole like plastic design with like their phones. They weren't really feeling like that cheap, but they definitely weren't feeling like even like iPhones at the time, especially if you think of something like the Samsung Galaxy S4 or Galaxy S5. Those things weren't really the most well-built things in terms of just how they feel in the hand. And the Samsung Galaxy S6 really made it feel like 10 times more premium. I think the biggest difference really was the glass on the back, because that just added like so much more like luxury to it. But with the front screen as well, I think they added some new glass, especially because on the earlier models like the Galaxy S5, the screen felt really like plasticky. It just did not feel that good. But with the Galaxy S6, it actually ended up feeling much better. So that is one huge thing that this phone still has. It's like it still feels really good in the hand, especially when you look at things like the iPhone 10, the Samsung Galaxy S9, the Galaxy Note 9s, all those things. All these phones still feel super premium. And really, I'm not going to say this phone in and of itself was the first phone with the glass on the back. The Nexus 4 had it. Many phones had it before. But I think Samsung really pushed the initiative to make this phone feel like timeless in a way. And I really think that's a huge proponent of this. Now, the front has a 5.1-inch Super AMOLED display. It's 1440p. And let me tell you, this display is extremely good. Okay, my display though does have burn-in, which sucks like crazy. I hate it so much, but there's no denying that this panel is still very good. I would even go as far as to say it's even better than even my iPhone 10 display. Now that's kind of a strong statement because my iPhone 10 does have True Tone and that makes it look that much better, but even if the iPhone 10 is better, it's only just marginally better. I think the Samsung Galaxy S6 has a very good display still. Now, one of the worst things about the Galaxy S6, I don't know why Samsung ever did this, they were out of their minds, is that they removed two extremely crucial things that they should have never removed, and no manufacturer should ever remove, but they're doing it now, so there's really no point even yelling about it. But they removed the removable battery, and they also removed the removable storage, so you can't expand the storage on this, and you can't even change the battery on this. And that was a huge problem when people were coming from the Galaxy S5, where you had those capabilities. You had the removable back, removable battery, expandable storage, but then Samsung went ahead and just switched it up on everybody, and that's why I think this phone had a huge reputation of just not being that good of a phone. Mostly because of that, it took out those two key features that Samsung was like notorious for, and they were kind of like blending into the iPhone realm, and people would bash iPhones and Apple all the time, like, oh, you can't expand your storage, oh, you can't remove the battery. But then Samsung did it, and it was the weirdest thing ever. I still don't know why they did it. They eventually added it back with the Galaxy S7, but that was a complete L on their book. Now, talking about the software of this phone and kind of looking towards the future, turning it on, we do have Android Nougat on it, and this is the latest version I got. Now, I'm looking at the specs, and some people have stated that they do have Android Oreo, or that there is an Android Oreo TouchWiz, I guess, software for it. But from what I can tell and from what I'm reading, I don't think there is one. I'm not able to download it on my Samsung Galaxy S6. I don't know what the problem is there. Maybe there's a problem with my Samsung, or maybe these people don't know what they're talking about. But regardless, I mean, that's why I made that RIP Galaxy S6 video last year, because that's when Samsung said they're not going to push another update on it, which really sucked. But here's the thing, okay? Even if it's still stuck on Android Nougat, features-wise, yeah, you're missing out on a couple features here and there, but security is one of those things that you're really going to miss out on. Every day there's more and more threats and everything like that, and you're almost, this sounds like I'm doing a sponsor video, but I'm not. But in terms of the software, you're going to be outdated. So what you need to do, and what I would recommend, is if anybody even still owns the Galaxy S6, I would highly recommend rooting and ROMing your Galaxy S6. I went and researched online, and I was able to find several Android Oreo ROMs that actually look pretty good. I might actually end up rooting and custom ROMing my Galaxy S6 and seeing how these ROMs run, but I also found some Android Pie ROMs for it too. So honestly, like, this phone is so outdated that even if you go and end up getting a ROM that has a couple bugs here and there, you'll probably still be in a better position than if you just were stock Android Nougat. Not even stock, it's TouchWiz, the worst thing ever. You would probably end up being better if you do flash a custom ROM. Now, be careful. Obviously, flash the ones that are correspondent to the version you have. There's tons of different Galaxy S6 variants, so make sure you do your research. But man, honestly, I would probably recommend that. And on top of that, you're getting way more features and everything like that usually. So I would kind of recommend that. Now, in terms of the hardware, this is where things get a little interesting. It has the Exynos 7420 Octa chipset. It has an octa-core CPU, and it has 3 gigs of RAM. And with those specs, they definitely do seem outdated with a lot of Androids, like even with the Galaxy S7. The specs that I stated didn't even seem that bad. This one is kind of in that boat where it's like in the middle. This is where Samsung kind of did start stepping up their game a little bit, but I still think that the performance on this thing is very, very average. There's nothing that really like strikes out to me that this is a very good performing phone, or it's like even the best of like 2015 when this thing was released. What I'll say is that, you know, when I was like multitasking, when I was just kind of going through apps and opening apps and things like that, there was like a little noticeable lag, which is pretty interesting. I was not expecting it. Usually I'm kind of on autopilot mode and I just kind of just go through the same process that I do with all the other videos, but this time I kind of saw that the opening up apps and things like that were a little bit slower than what I was expecting. So that's kind of interesting. And like I said, with multitasking, once the apps were open, it was pretty easy to open up the apps back in when I had like a whole list of them. So that was pretty interesting. And I want to get this next section out too before I say the problem real quick, but the gaming aspect of it too was pretty okay as well. Games like Stack, Paper IO 2, things like that, they run perfectly fine, not running into many problems. Even like Real Racing 3, that game ran perfectly fine too. Like I was expecting it to be slow, that's the weird thing, but it ended up being fast. So the gaming side of things is pretty good. But when you're kind of going through like opening up the web browser and opening up the Play Store and things like that, that's where you kind of see some noticeable lag. You expect to see lag in the games, but you don't expect to see that much lag in terms of just like the UI of it and going through all those like apps. So that was definitely kind of interesting. Now here's the problem. Here's the thing that I kind of wanted to hit on. This phone heats up like crazy, okay? It might be a software thing, but older Samsungs always had a tendency of being heating up and always things like that. I mean, my Galaxy S5 heated up a lot. My Galaxy S3 didn't really. My Galaxy S5, not really. It was the Galaxy S4 and the Galaxy S6 that mostly heated up the most. It was the weirdest thing ever. And this phone, I was messing with it for literally like 20 minutes today. And it's just like, once you hold it in your hand, it just heats up like crazy. There's no reason this phone should be heating up like that on like average use. And I even like restarted it a couple times. I just let it chill for a couple hours. And as soon as you start using it, it just heats up. And I don't really like that. Usually I have a case on my phone, so I don't even feel the heat, but it's just the thought of knowing that this phone is heating up and it's just wasting that much battery life. It just doesn't really like sit well with me. You need to have this like phone in a freezer or something in order to get the freaking heat down. It's crazy. So that's definitely one of the worst things about the performance aspect. The performance, I would probably rate it like a 6.5 out of 10, mostly because of the heating issues, but also because of just the overall slowness there is in the TouchWiz UI. And I think that has a lot to do with the software with TouchWiz and not necessarily the hardware. But that's pretty much what I want to hit on in terms of the performance. Now, in terms of the camera, however, I really do think that this camera is still pretty decent. There's a 16 megapixel camera on the back, it has optical image stabilization, and honestly, I don't think this is a bad sensor. I think it's very, very good for the age that it is and for the price tag that this phone is selling for. I don't think it was the best of 2015, but what I'm saying is that Samsung cameras have always been notorious at being really good, okay? In my opinion, it seems like they really overexpose the photos, and even though I'm not a photographer, I don't really care about photos that much, I can definitely tell you that this camera is definitely good. I don't really have many complaints about it. The front camera is 5 megapixels, and I don't really like the front camera on this thing. I don't like front cameras on like a lot of phones. I don't usually use them because I'm ugly and nobody wants to see my face anyway. But what I can tell you is that without spending too much time on it, both cameras on this thing are still very good, and you probably won't even notice that much of a difference between all of them. Like if you're comparing this to like a Galaxy S10 or something, or the soon-to-be Galaxy S10, yeah, you'll probably notice the Galaxy S10 will be better, but honestly, like who cares? Like it's a good camera, it'll get the job done. Now I went over the camera pretty quickly so I can spend the rest of the time talking about probably the worst aspect of this phone, which is the battery life. Size is one thing, all right? Sometimes size doesn't matter, okay? In this case, size does matter, and it has a 2,550 milliamp hour battery, and that was back in 2015. That's the dumbest thing ever. They removed the battery and then they made the battery even smaller, which is, it makes absolutely no sense, okay? But then check this out. That's the one thing, okay? That's complaining about the size. But let's talk about real world usage, okay? Now this is with my Galaxy S6. I don't know if it's going to be different on your guys's. It should be, because batteries do depreciate over time, and depending on how much this guy I bought this phone from used it, I mean, it could be better, it could be worse, whatever. But because of battery depreciation, we are not at the 2,550 milliamp hours anymore. We're at like 2,000 milliamp hours, probably even less than that. And here's the thing, when I was using my phone for like literally like 25 minutes to film and like do all these other things with, it went from like 96% to like 70 something percent in like 25 minutes I was messing with it. I wasn't even doing that much crazy stuff. I was just like gaming, downloading things here and there. There's no reason that this phone should depreciate that much. And dude, I use tons of phones. I review so much. I've almost reviewed like every single major phone that's ever been out. And the fact that this thing is still like has that battery issue is crazy. So that kind of tells to me that there's probably a hardware issue more than a software issue. And that's a crazy thing. I still don't understand that. So the battery life on this thing, in my opinion, is not that good at all. Honestly, I couldn't even get through like half a day on this thing if I wanted to. If you're around a charger, then yeah, you could probably make it last. But with just average use, this battery life is just not that good. Now you will find those people even in this comment section saying, man, the Galaxy S6 has a wonderful battery life. You're just using it wrong or whatever. I don't know. And that might be the case, but with my specific use, that's kind of the experience that I had. Now, some other notable things to note. Fortunately, this phone does have wireless charging, so that's pretty cool. Now that's on some variants. Some other variants don't have it, but on my variant, I do have it, so that's pretty cool. Like I said, no removable storage, no removable battery, which really sucks, but it is what it is. This phone also has a fingerprint sensor on the front. I think it's pretty decent. I think they kind of improved it from the Galaxy S5, but just remember, if you're buying this phone used, the front home button usually does get a little bit wobbly, and for the majority that I've seen, they usually have like marks and stuff on the fingerprint sensor. So if you're planning on getting it used, just make sure you get it in decent condition in order to keep up that resale value as well. And this phone also has the headphone jack, and it takes micro USB. It did not switch over to USB-C even until like the Galaxy S8. So those are just some major things I kind of wanted to hit on. Now, here's the issue, okay? The Samsung Galaxy S6 in the used market, mostly eBay, Craigslist, those places, are still selling for around that $100 mark. And in my opinion, this is my opinion, don't go taking it as fact, I don't think this phone is worth $100. I don't even think this phone is worth like $60, okay? Now I'm going to get a lot of flack for that, but there's just a lot of problems with this phone. The build quality is the greatest thing it has going for it. Really, outside of that, even outside the camera, there's really not too much that I would really recommend people to get, at least for this phone. But what I will say is, for a lot of people out there, if you're around a charger all day, this isn't really that bad of an option. But for the price of this phone, you can definitely go in the used market and find other phones as well. I mean, even for like $100, you can get probably the first Google Pixel from around that $100 to $150 range. That's a very strong option. I would probably recommend the Galaxy S7 as well. You can probably find that for only like $20 to $30 more than the Galaxy S6 in the used market. So those are the major phones that I would really recommend over this one. I mean, yeah, you're going to be spending money on those, but it's going to be a better option. And you know what? To answer the question, is the Samsung Galaxy S6 still worth it in 2019? I'm going to say, if you currently own the Galaxy S6, then you could definitely use it for the rest of the time you want to use it for. If you made it work for you and your specific lifestyle, then that's perfectly fine. But I don't want to recommend a phone for people out there who are just going to just constantly have issues with it like I do, or have the battery drain or have it heat up all the time. I'd rather you just spend some extra money here, just get it out of the way. I know you might have to save a little bit more and get a better phone like the Galaxy S7 or the Google Pixel, or really whatever phone. Even I think the OnePlus 3T you can find around this price tag as well. Those phones are amazing, and they still kind of resemble the Galaxy S6, all have pretty good build quality as well. And man, I would really recommend those phones over the Galaxy S6. But like I said, if you currently own it, that's fine. If you don't own it, I would recommend those other phones for you checking out. And I already have some videos of those phones out for the 2019 reviews, the double ISOs. I haven't even called it that in a while. But so eBay and Craigslist, you'll find the cheapest options. They're usually not in that good of quality, but you usually get them for the cheapest prices. So I'd really recommend going there if you want to find them for the cheapest quality. But I would always recommend buying certified or refurbished. They cost just a little bit extra money, but you usually get warranties. They're in better build quality most of the time, and they're super easy to get. They're linked through Amazon. They're on Amazon's website, and I always recommend people buying it from there because it's much safer and it's so much easier to do. So what I'll do is I'll link Galaxy S7, a Google Pixel, and a OnePlus 3T if I can find one in the comment section below. The cheapest ones I find on Amazon, I'll link them down in the description. So I'd really recommend you guys to buy it through those links, because a percentage of those sales actually come back to the channel, and it helps us do more videos like this and do more giveaways and crazy things like that. So I'd really appreciate if you guys could check those things out. But that is pretty much it, man. If you guys have any questions or anything like that, leave it down in the comment section below. Hit that like button, that'll mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. Every single subscriber that we get really does count, so it'll mean so much if you guys could hit that. Also check out the other links down in the description as well. My Twitter, my Instagram, my second channel, all those links are linked down below. I'd really appreciate if you guys could check it out. But more importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.